Officials in Russia and Ukraine say they've successfully swapped almost 400 captured soldiers. It's the first reported prisoner exchange since the Kremlin claimed Ukraine shot down a plane carrying 65 Ukrainian prisoners of war. Russian military officials say each side has swapped 195 soldiers. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says 207 Ukrainian soldiers and civilians have been returned in the swap. It is the 50th prisoner swap of its kind between the two countries since war broke out in 2022. For more analysis on the situation in Ukraine, joining us live is Matthew Sussex, a fellow at the ANU Strategic and Defence Studies Centre. Matthew, always good to see you. Thanks for your time. Is it too optimistic to hope that this latest hostage swap deal, this breakthrough, could be a step towards a more significant peace deal? As we know, this war's dragged on now for more than 2 years.
Oh, look, I'd certainly like to think so, but I'd severely have my doubts. One of the things I think that does show that at least there's some level of communication that goes on between the Russians and the Ukrainian side is, over agreements with things like prisoner swaps. These are quite normal when there's war and conflict. And the fact that they'd been suspended since the shooting down of the Russian plane spoke to, just how utterly far apart those two countries are. But it's good to see that at least they recognise the value in getting their own servicemen and women back, even though this is something that only happens fairly occasionally, but unlikely to really have too much of an effect on the shape of the conflict.
There have been reports of growing tensions within Ukraine's leadership. In particular, there are reports that the president, Volodymyr Zelensky, and his army chief are on very different pages. It sounds like that can only be good news for Russia.
Yeah, that's absolutely the case. The very last thing that Ukraine wants to do now is present a face of disunity and political infighting, something that's been very much seized on by Kremlin propagandists. It's been bubbling away for a while now. Rumours of tensions between the president, Zelensky, and Zaluzhnyi, who's his chief of the armed forces. Zelensky's office seems to think that Zaluzhnyi has political ambitions of his own. He's immensely popular, possibly even more popular than the Ukrainian president at home. And although Zelensky's office has denied that he asked Zaluzhnyi to quit, it seems the story has a fair bit of legs. We're getting some, quite specific detail about a meeting that took place between the president and his armed forces chief. A suggestion that he was asked to resign and offered the headship of the National Security Council, to which he said no. And then cooler heads prevailed and back to business as usual. Ultimately, really, this ends up, I think, perhaps damaging Zelensky personally, because it shows either that he wanted to get rid of the head of his armed forces and couldn't, or decided to back down and keep someone on who he perhaps doesn't have confidence in.
Okay, what about the state of play on the Russian side of things? I wanted to show our viewers some new images that we've seen of what is reportedly Vladimir Putin's private estate on the Finnish border. Reports suggest that the Russian president has a secret luxury mansion. Apparently it's got marble floors. It's got a private waterfall that you can see there on the screen, no less. There have been so many rumours, haven't there, about Putin in recent years, about secret hideaways that he has, that he's very sick, for example. There was that attempted coup. How is President Putin travelling at the moment politically, do you think?
Well, he's busily gearing up for a re-election campaign, which, frankly, he has no chance of losing, for the chief reason that anyone who opposes Vladimir Putin is not allowed on the ballot. Or anyone who's a real threat to him isn't allowed on the ballot, which allows him to continue to live his fairly lavish lifestyle. It's reputed that he has loads and a number of duchess in and around the Black Sea, and this latest one close to the Finnish border, where, he takes success to a new level in terms of the opulence with which they're designed and fitted out. Now, Putin is, by many estimates, the world's richest person. And while he doesn't necessarily have that money personally, he controls the assets of the state and has a number of people around him who can handle money for him and make things happen. So, I think Putin, figures that the best thing for him to do is to try and remain president, because if he gives up the reins, if he decides not to stay on as Russian president, he's committed a real sort of faux pas, because the world in which he inhabits is one where he doesn't trust anyone. And I don't think really he would be able to hand over the reins of power to anyone, even in his inner circle. So it's likely that Vladimir Putin will die in the job, whether that's of natural causes or, assisted causes, let's say.
And in the meantime, he'll be living it up at what looks like a very luxurious abode. Matthew Sussex, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Ash.